Our blog this week continues the theme of behaviour from last time, and it's quite a bit longer. It's a bit more complicated. The facilitators and coaches that work for our sister company, which is TLC, the Learning Curve, they regularly observe many poor examples of people giving verbal and even written feedback to others. And here at Click 360, we can't help noticing some of the less than helpful comments that people have provided in their 360 reports. So in our combined experience, positive behaviour, which offers a great opportunity for praising feedback, it's usually ignored altogether. While negative feedback, it's either brushed under the carpet, it's avoided, or it's done really badly, often leaving the receiver feeling bruised and wounded. So we recommend a simple model for giving feedback, both verbally and in writing, and that's in the form of an acronym or a mnemonic. Be fair. Okay, so be fair, B-E-F-A-I-R. Now I'll go through each letter with you right now, but you can find the transcript of this video in the written version of our blog underneath. So the B equals behaviour. Specifically, what was observed that was either good or bad. E equals effects. So what resulted or is likely to result? The consequences, good or bad. Feelings, how that behaviour left you feeling or leaves you feeling. Your feelings, from your own heart. Those first three letters of the acronym, they work for both positive and negative behaviour, and they ensure that the receiver is left feeling very clear about what was done well or what needs to be done differently. Whereas the next letter, which is A, that's only needed for giving feedback about negative behaviour. So A is alternative. So you say something like, we need to find an alternative that works for both of us. And then the final two letters, they're closely linked to each other. They're almost one, really. And they can be used to reinforce positive behaviour, but are definitely needed if you're going to give feedback about negative behaviour. So what you do now is you offer an invitation to respond. And that's the next step, work through with the other person. So following the Be Fair model offers such an important skill for any human interaction, let alone people managers. We are genuinely surprised that it isn't taught at school. So let's look at the model more closely, together with some worked examples. Let's imagine I'm giving feedback to a direct report by the name of John. So B equals behaviour, remember, so I'm going to start with that. I'm going to describe specifically what was done well or poorly. I'm going to be very specific about the behaviour that I saw. What was it that John did or didn't do, or what was it that John said or didn't say. And I'm going to keep the words focused on the behaviour, not the person. So for example, if I'm giving positive feedback, that report you wrote was really excellent, John. What I particularly liked about it was the fact that it had a very clear index. Each page was numbered. You kept the word count down so it was easy to read and it didn't take too long. And you used some very clear graphics which brought the words to life. And best of all, John, you gave it to me on time. And now the same situation, but from a negative perspective. That report you wrote was really poor, John. Not at all like you. What I particularly disliked about it was the fact that it had no index. There was no numbering of the pages. The word count was high, making it really difficult and very time consuming to read. You didn't use any graphics which would have brought the words to life. And worst of all, John, you gave it to me late. And now I'm going to go on to describe the effects of that. Describing, the likely effects or the consequences of that behaviour, good or bad. Now, typically at work, these are going to be about the business processes. It might even be about business results. So, for example, sticking with that same situation, positive feedback. Because the report was so good, John, I didn't have to devote any time at all to amending it. I was able to send it straight off to the client, confident in the knowledge that it would hit the spot. And because you gave it to me on time, this meant that the client got it earlier than expected. And now the E component in negative feedback. So because the report was so poor, John, I had to devote time and effort to amending it, which meant I was unable to send it straight off to the client. And because of the tight timeline involved, even though I worked late into the night, the client got it late. So now I'm going to describe the feelings, which is, revealing how I feel about that behaviour, good or bad, the way the behaviour affected me. So, for example, on the positive side, sticking with that same situation, and I feel overjoyed about that, chuffed to bits. I'm really glad to have you as part of my team, John. But on the negative side, I feel very disappointed, quite hurt actually. I really expected better from you, John. You might even want to use something stronger than the word disappointed. If that's up to you, it's whatever sounds right for you. So this next component, remember, it's only valid when you're giving negative or constructive or corrective feedback. It's the A, it's the alternative. So you're either suggesting some way that they could do this differently, perhaps from your own experience or from your knowledge of how someone else does that thing, or you simply suggest the need to find an alternative and you offer that back to them. So these are both negative examples, remember? So I'd like to suggest that you borrow some examples of reports that are better put together, John, so that you can come back to me with a revised layout by the end of next month. Or alternatively, as a result of your poor performance around this report, John, we need to find a way of improving your report writing skills so that that kind of situation can be avoided in the future. Now note the use of the word we there rather than you. You may want to show some sort of joint commitment to getting this right in the future. And then you offer an invitation to respond. So, in real time, these two steps go together. They need to be short and to the point. And remember, they can be used to reinforce positive behaviour or, when you're looking for an alternative behaviour. So, as an example, on the positive side, I wonder how you will ensure that all your reports are delivered that way, John. And then now, the negative side. So what ideas have you got as to how we can move forward, John? And this is where you move into coaching mode and you process the responses that the receiver is giving you, prompting perhaps through additional questions if necessary, until you reach a conclusion that works for both of you. Okay, so that's the Be Fair model, with some worked examples. If all of that seems a bit cumbersome, however, well, here's a shorter version of each. So let's start with the reinforcing feedback first. The way you're putting together the monthly report for us is excellent, John. It's got just the right amount of detail. You illustrate the points well. It's well laid out with a very clear index. And what's more, I receive it on time, which means that the client is always well informed and up to speed. I feel very good about that. I very much appreciate it. Well done and thank you. I wonder how you're going to ensure that all of your reports are delivered that way. And then the same situation, but now opposite. We're going to do constructive or corrective feedback about the same thing. The way you're putting together that monthly report, it's just not working for me, John. It has too much detail. You're not illustrating the key points well enough. It's very poorly laid out with no index. And what's more, I rarely receive it on time. And this means that the customer is often poorly informed and not up to speed. I don't feel good about that, John. In fact, I'm really disappointed. I expected better from you. And then either I'd like to suggest that you borrow some examples of reports that are better put together so that you can come back to me with a revised layout by the end of next month. What do you think, John? Or you could try this, which is a bit simpler and a little bit quicker. So given what I've just said, what do you think you could do to make this different, John? Well, if you hadn't come across it before, we hope you found that model useful. Have fun with the Be Fair feedback model. Practice it with your kids and with your significant others, not just your business interactions. Think about its relevance to a 360 when you're coaching raters to enter written comments to support their ratings. And when you're really fluent with it and you're able to use it to manage your people's performance successfully or to maintain your ground in difficult negotiations with colleagues and or customers, well then you've mastered that technique. So have fun with it and good luck.